always forget that.
And here we are for a Thursday morning episode of Dualistic Unity Raw. I want to start this off with a reminder that it's not personal. It's not personal. It's not about you. More often than not, it has nothing to do with you. And if you could stop thinking about yourself, you'd quickly realize that it was absurd to even think it was about you. And here's one of the reasons I'm saying that. I made a video yesterday or the day before, could have been one or the other, and it was something along the lines of it can be helpful to remember, because I always like starting it off that way. I don't want to tell anybody what to do with their lives. I'm just trying to pass on shit that could be helpful if you keep it in mind. That if you are annoyed that somebody isn't paying more attention to you or spending more time with you, that's probably why. And there's a lot there. I mean, we're talking about a certain degree of codependence, expectation, assumption, need, idealizing somebody to be like the solution to your problem, the cure to your woes, all of that stuff. But what I thought was really funny was that a lot of people responded to this video. It's doing pretty well right now. And one of the comments got flagged. And so I went and looked in the reviewed filter comments section, and the comment was, all right, mind your own business. And I just wanted to mention that's fucking hilarious, because I don't know this person. I'm not talking to them specifically about their own situation at all. I'm just like, hey, if you're annoyed that somebody's not spending time with you, that's probably why. Mind your business. I wasn't talking to you. That had nothing to do with you at all whatsoever. But that is by far my favorite comment from that video so far. So I'm just throwing that out there quickly. But it kind of leads me to a larger conversation, because a lot of the things that I say come from a place that is very uncomfortable. And that place is here and now, in uncertainty, where I've spent a lot of time going through a lot of emotions and a lot of perceptions and a lot of feelings. And as a result of all of that time, I really value certain things. And those things that I value are my experience of myself, which is something that I don't try to run away from so much anymore. And I recognized when I was younger, I really did. And it's because it's uncomfortable to be left with yourself. This is why when we're left sitting in a chair by ourselves in a room, we start to fidget, right? Or we want to get up, pace around, want something to do. Like there's just a bunch of stuff inside of our awareness that we just don't want to look at. And so for me, that wasn't really an option for a very long time. So much so that I just not only got used to it, but really started to learn from it and appreciate it. And so for people who hang out with me, you will notice that while I do dip in to the social conversation, while I will join a group for a little while, very often I'm not speaking in those groups. I'm doing something very mundane, or I'm just kind of having fun off to the side, or I'm just listening. And then I take off and I go and I do my own thing, because to me, there's value in doing that. Now, at no point during doing my own thing do I say that people can't join me, but I don't go out of my way to go and find people to join me, because everybody is doing their own thing as well. They're having their own journey. But often it has been seen and viewed as, oh, well, Ray's isolating himself. He's not making himself available to us. No, I'm perfectly available. But you actually have to separate yourself from the group that brings you comfort, that keeps you away from that uncomfortable place, in order to find where I am. And isn't that exactly the point? Like when you come to a retreat, when you come to a group, when you want to have a one-on-one chat with me, why do you want to have a one-on-one chat with me? Is it for me to come over to where you are and try and fix it? Or are you trying to understand something from what I'm experiencing and communicating from where I am? Do you really think that you can do that, understand where I am, what I'm experiencing, without pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? Because I don't live in a comfort zone. Something to keep in mind. Because while you might be thinking, Ray should come over and spend more time with me, Ray should reach out to me. Why hasn't Ray messaged me back? Why hasn't he responded to my email? Why do you fucking need me to? That's the more valuable question. And to me, that's the best thing I can do for you, is leave you with your own expectations, your assumptions, your needs, right? And let you process them. And then when you're done and you're ready to come and chat with me, because you know I'm going to shit all over them as soon as you do come talk to me, we can have a chat. But that's also a reason that you hesitate to come and chat with me, is because often you don't want to hear what I have to say. Because what I'm saying comes from that uncomfortable place that you're hoping I can fix. And I can't. Nobody can. And you don't have to either. You can just sit in it. Stop running from it. Stop trying to feel better. Stop living through assumption and comparison, and try to give yourself a higher or more positive mentality or positive self-image. You can just sit in what is as yourself and deal with all of the feelings without having to label any of it, without having to actually judge it as anything, and just let it keep changing. But I cannot and will not save you, because that does nothing for you, and it certainly does nothing for me. And we are in this together. I know you have the strength. It's up to you to know that you have the strength. And when you do, I'll be sitting here, ready to have a chat.
And I think anyone who's ever had a thought about maybe you, maybe someone else in their life being able to save them or fix them or do something for them felt that uh little rant there, because yeah, even the thought that someone or something or some situation or experience or place or person is going to do anything for you, like, it cuts down that ability to, like, what do you do when you're left with yourself then? Like, what's left there? And if you're looking to someone else or expecting, there's so much expectation in that, and then it's like almost feel like someone feels like it's owed. It's like owed to them because of something. It's like, that's a hell of a lot of expectation of another person to spend their time on you doing something for you, expressing something to you that then, if that's the case one time, then it's like that's where it feels like it comes from, as opposed to coming from yourself. And so being that being a crutch for anyone, giving anyone an answer, expecting and even that, like, in anything you express, being this, like, right thing or even something that's gonna help someone is like, it shits on both experiences. Like, it's certainly, if you're expecting yourself to live up to some bar and have an answer, or something, like having some expectation of, like, doing things the right way or doing things well, like, in any situation, it's gonna make the experience, like, really fucking shitty. Like, really, really brutal for you, because there's gonna be, like, these lines that you keep feeling like you have to cross and get to, and it's interesting because, like, you have certain expectations of yourself to do something, or some thoughts about yourself that you wanna then validate, and it's like that bar is there without it maybe even being in the forefront, and it's, like, impacting sort of everything that you experience and that you go through, and it can kind of even get in the way of just an interaction, of being able to hear people, if you have some sort of expectation of yourself that you then need to live up to, instead of it just being more of an open-ended experience. Like, I don't know what's going to be expressed. I don't know how it's going to be expressed. I don't know how it's going to be received. And so, why would I try and control it, or, something that's being expressed to someone else? because immediately there's that expectation. And so, yeah, if you go to someone for that sense of being able to feel better once, it's like that doesn't do anything for your ability to do it yourself. It takes away from it every time. And then if you do it once, it's like, what's going to happen? So in a retreat situation, it's like the retreats aren't a vacation. They're not a time like someone goes on a vacation to separate themselves. There's no growth there. There's no shifts. It's just kind of like stagnation, comfort for a bit, and then you're back to your life. The retreats are very much a time to have an opportunity to have those expectations not met and to see what you're made of and to see where that, ability to have faith in yourself lies. And so the thought that going into a retreat that anyone's going to do something for you is it's like, what happens when you're not at the retreat? What happens when you're not there? You're going to have to keep going back for your fix, because getting someone else to do something for you isn't sustainable. Even thinking about something or talking about something isn't sustainable. It's doing it. It's taking the steps yourself. And so the retreat is an opportunity for anyone and everyone to do that, take those steps themselves. And so looking to someone else is just going to either, stagnate. It's not going to allow for the ability to see that, you can do it yourself.
Yeah. And this is the thing is that, and I really want everyone who's listening to this to understand this. I was a needy pain in the ass. Like I was needy. I was irresponsible. I was lost. I was afraid. I was always looking for someone to follow, someone to point the way, a direction that was the right way. I was always looking for a way to feel secure. I get it. I understand. Right. If I wasn't doing that, I was looking for a way to feel better. Like I was on the right path. Like I was doing the right thing. I was part of a movement. It was collective. We were changing things. Like there's all of this swell to try and get somewhere. And it just, all it does is lead to another fall, right? It just leads to more addiction, to more dependence on that feeling. And I just don't need it. And that's the entire reason I say the things that I say. Like anybody who's ever listened to me and went, yeah, I'd like a little bit of that. It ain't from trying to feel better. It's really not. It's from not needing to. It's from not needing to. Right. And which is why that, and again, it's almost a physical, it's not almost, it is straight up a physical fucking feeling now. When I am talking to someone, I can feel that need. Like I can feel that expectation. I can feel the role that they're trying to put on me to satisfy something. It's almost like a vampire kind of sucking feeling. And it's not something you should avoid by any means, but you need to know that as soon as I'm there and I'm dealing with that, I'm like, all right, that is your shit to deal with. And I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm not going to stick around for it. And if you keep following me, you're going to notice more and more of me just going, all right, well, you talk to you in a bit. And that's it. Why? Is it because I'm abandoning you? Yeah, kind of. But on the other hand, it's because it's the only way you're going to learn. I'm actually going to make it harder for you to learn if you can look to me, because see, people make a mistake. There's this misunderstanding, I think, that happens because you can come and have a conversation with me. And at the end of that conversation, you're going to feel a little lighter, which you immediately associate with feeling better. But the feeling better that most people are used to is the feeling more positive. That is not what happens when you come and have a conversation with me. Because to me, it's about stripping it all down. So often conversations with me start off really, really light and kind of, boppy. We're just going through the conversation. And then a few minutes in, all of a sudden, especially if you're asking me to help you deal with something, I'll start asking you why. Right? And then immediately you'll get uncomfortable and there'll be a little bit of irritation. And then it'll be probably an intense emotional conversation for a little bit. And at the end of it, you go, kind of like a toddler that's just ran itself out. Right. And then in that running yourself out and not entertaining the thought or in the fucking story and the need to feel better anymore, and more importantly, dropping the assumption that I'm going to fucking help you at all, then all of a sudden you're there with me and we can actually have a conversation. And in that lightness, you think you feel better rather than just feeling more like yourself. But people who come to the retreat, to any retreat, to feel better, quickly find that it's difficult to hang around with me and that I'm not often in their field of vision. Right. And it's not because, again, I'm deliberately avoiding them. It's because there are other people who aren't trying to feel better who just happen to gravitate towards me more. Because that's the difference. You'll notice that retreats have a spectrum, and that spectrum are those who are trying to feel better and just feel like they are part of something enlightened and conscious, forward thinking, changing the world, high minded, all that shit, divine. And then there's people who are just fucking playing pool with me. Because to me, that's the freedom. It's not needing to think about any of that shit. It's not needing to feel anything. And if you want to share the joy of not needing to get anywhere, then I'm more than happy to hang. But there is definitely almost this discomfort that comes with talking to me now. And I'm good with that because the discomfort is only when you try to bring your shit into the story, into the situation. You're like, hey, you know what this could use? A little bit more of my story. Why? And that's typically where my conversation goes. Do we, though? Do we really need that here right now? And if you're not willing to let it go, which means you're not willing to let go of the journey to feel better because of it, then you're going to find it uncomfortable to be around me. And you're going to be annoyed a little bit that I'm not spending more time with you. Because if I was spending time with you, surely you'd feel better. You'd be having a better time, right? Because it's not on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just how yeah, and, like, getting that space, like, really, if no one's gonna do it for you, like, there's nothing for anyone else, and even from I know we don't I feel like early on in the podcast, certainly for me, it was, like, about this sort of conversation, like, it was I went into I remember the first couple of retreats especially, and it's shifted as much as, my own discomforts come up during them and, dealing with all sorts of stuff that I had, suppressed or not wanted to look at that shift from it being about some like cerebral conversation to it's about playing pool and like even just like playing a game and having fun with it and not taking it seriously and like being able to sit there, dude, like fucking playing Uno sometimes. I'll be like fucking going to full body clench because it's such a like open-ended thing that I almost felt like I avoided for a while or thought like I fucking certainly thought, especially posting some older videos, some older TikToks, like how much there was this sense of, like, having fucking having an answer, like, thinking that there was I was super serious for a while, like, the thought of telling a joke or being, like, goofy or silly was, like I forget how much that was outside of my that was, like I almost felt like I couldn't do it, like, there were points that I felt like I couldn't go and drink alcohol at all and all these things, and it wasn't really until early on in Dualistic Unity after, like, a couple years of feeling like that, that I was like, "Oh, fuck. It's not really about because that's super, super, like, right way to act. That's very much, like, rigid regimen, the whole spiritual, like and the feeling better because of it as opposed to having strength, like, there's such a big difference between just feeling better because you can be in a comfortable situation and not really have a whole lot like, not be in the stuff, like, in situations that are less comfortable and, like, feel pretty good about yourself. Hear something that maybe someone says on a podcast, maybe on this podcast, maybe on a social media video that, like, feels good. It's like, "Oh, that's nice." Like, my video, imagine for a second that you had no past. Like, there can be an immediate sort of like, "Oh, wow, I'm just here," but it doesn't mean that there isn't still a lot of stuff and, like, all that stuff, like, is still under the surface if you're not thinking about it, and so you can create certain situations that just remain comfortable despite all that stuff being in there still, and someone, reminds me, someone commented on one of my videos about, I posted a high running video, and they were like, "Why do you smoke if it makes you anxious?" And I was like, "That's a great question," because in my opinion, like, that stuff's there, for someone who gets really anxious or paranoid, like, it's under there no matter what. When you're sober, like, there's certain things it's just easier to like, step into certain situations. Like, you can almost be in situations that are more comfortable, that allow you to, like, not feel all that stuff, but you get, really baked and have, get anxious, paranoid, like any situation. You can be alone in your room and kind of deal with some stuff, look at some stuff and not like necessarily deal with it, but at least feel it. And then as you go and do things that maybe are a little bit less comfortable and you do them high, then it's like, oh, there we go. That's more stuff coming up. And it kind of puts it in your face. And so, um, I don't remember why I brought that point up, but yeah, I think being able to, yeah, I don't even remember at all.
Be uncomfortable. That's really it. It's being able to be uncomfortable. But that's the point, is that it becomes less uncomfortable to be uncomfortable if you're not always seeking comfort. And that's it. I'm disillusioned with comfort. I've gotten tired of control. And it's just, it doesn't work. It's not what it seems to be. It's one of those fairy tales that you believe in so you can feel better. Right. But at the end of the day, it's that need to feel better that stops you from feeling stronger. That stops you from actually recognizing how adaptable you are, how much potential you have, how much, you limit yourself. That's really it. If you're willing to just be here and deal with what goes with that, it's incredible what you're capable of. But that's it for me. Like, when somebody comes over and they're like, oh man, I'm really going through it. I need someone to talk to. I'm like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's have a talk. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. I think it's really important everybody recognize that. I don't know what I'm going to say. Right? What I know is I'm feeling a lot of things about this person currently asking me to talk. Everything from we got this to I don't know what the fuck to do. And a little bit of panic goes in there. Like, the whole spectrum of emotion goes into that moment for me and in the entire conversation. And it's never about trying to feel better. And I've never going like, yeah, I know what to say. I've done this for years. All right. Because then I'm not listening to that person. I'm thinking about myself. So that's the point. All of this conversation, all of it comes from just sitting in that uncertainty. Comes from the potential that goes with sitting in that uncertainty. Which is why I avoid the high-minded, divine, spiritual shit. I avoid those conversations. It's kind of like when, like, I'll get into them, sure, because I got lost in them myself. But you'll notice that when I do get into them, it's to deconstruct them. It's like, all right, let's talk about all that, high-minded conceptual crap, and let's bring it right back down to the moment we're in and why you feel so uncomfortable just talking about yourself. All right, which is why to me that game of pool is far more important at a retreat than going and hanging out with the entire group and standing there acting like the fucking ringmaster while I spout off all cerebral stuff that may be generally applicable, but I can do that shit in an episode. We're at a retreat. You want to come and see how uncomfortable you are just to play a game? And then have me laugh with you at that discomfort? It's a very different thing. It's a very different reason to come and hang with me. I'm not here to fix you, but I can bask in the fact that you don't need to be fixed with you while you get used to it. That's it. Can you get used to it? Can you accept you are what you are? And that is change. Can you let go of this idea that you must control that change, that you know the best end result for that change, that there is an end result at all? Can you let go? That's what all of this is about. This isn't about memorizing something, dualistic unity principles or any of that shit. It's really not. That's all. This is all just fucking a coating. That's all it is, dressing on top of the real point. This conversation is not even the point. The point is the fact that the conversation is reminding you that you're you. It's reminding you that that's enough. And you're like, yeah, But don't get addicted to the insight. Look at the point. The point isn't that high-minded, "Oh, now I'm recognizing more." It's, "Right, and that's cool, but it doesn't make me more." Can you recognize that you don't ever become more, but you can experience more of what you are? Can you let go? And you are the only one that can answer that. And your answer defines your experience.
Oh, man. Yeah, this, like it's oh gosh, it's such an interesting journey through I mean, we've been doing, like, I forget, 2.5 years, dude. 2.5 years. Like, I'll look back, it's and again, it's like, now I show up more to think and it's been sort of a progressive thing of like, being willing to be uncertain, being willing to just listen to an entire talk. Like, I used to rip notes on my notebook like fucking nuts. Like, you can go back to older video, like, I forget how much it was like my head was down a lot of the time, just like, just in case, just in case, just in case, just in case, so that I had something to share or say instead of because again, it was like more of a comfortable sort of feeling. But over time, with the podcast, like it it's not that it's always been a lot of, like, enjoyable and, like, such an interesting experience, but now it's almost like there's an excitement to it that it's like, no idea what is next versus early on, it was like, I was just taking a shitload of, shrooms and, like, coming each week with, like, more and more questions, and it was a lot of fucking questions. Like, I just had a shitload of, like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. I've been in this bubble. I've been in this spot. I've been in this, like, thought that, reality is what I think it is." And entirely in its entirety for most of my life, like, even that, like, in an early I was like, "Oh, everything just is. Everything just is." Like, it's not like society doesn't have it's not, like, actually what I thought it was, and I forget how much has, just shifted over the years, but now it's very much like we rarely say, like, even God unless we're reviewing a priest video or something, or, like, lack of division, or we are each other, like, kicking things off. I've listened to older episodes where it's like, uh, "Hi," or, "Hello and welcome to, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm you," or "I'm God," or "I'm blah, blah, blah," and like, those shifts even to, like, I'm, going through stuff and, like, more of the reality of the experience. Because oh, man, for a while, I was just, like, had this I don't even know what it was, but, like, "Oh, yeah, you're not what you think you are." Like, that was just like, "Uh, that whole thing, meh, all that stuff, the human experience, yeah, we're just we're just reality wandering around." Like, a kind of like a s in like a separateness instead of a lack of division. Because then if there isn't division, if there isn't control, then it's like everything's on the table all the time. And so the thought of even, like, I don't know, man, like, in conversations, even, like, having more of a willingness to, like, not hold on as a conversation's going, or realizing, like, keeping my my mind kinda empty is the best thing I can do instead of, like, tracking and coming up with, "Oh, what's the best next thing to say?" It's like, okay, if there isn't anything we can say on here to help anyone and it's all on you, it's on me, it's on personal responsibility, then, like, having even the thought that, like, "Oh, there's a good thing to respond here." It's like, yeah, don't do that. Almost like like, whatever thing you think is gonna help someone, like, actually don't, because that's if they then hear that and they're like, "Oh, that makes me feel better." Like, that's not actually helping them. That's actually getting in the way. So, yeah, and then it's, like, way fucking easier to just be yourself, which is all you can do for is just space. And again, it's like not even to do for anyone else, because it's not about anyone else, like helping someone else even at
It's
all.
just another leap of faith, isn't it? Really is. Like, it takes a lot of faith in you, the listener, for me to not try to control or fix your journey. Isn't that funny? But that's the same faith I have in myself. So not try and control and fix my journey. See, that's the point. But that's what brings us together, is the recognition that without that false sense of certainty and control, there are also no false walls. We are in this together. And it changes our experience of everything. But this is one of the reasons. It's funny because you're like, oh my God, it's been 2.5 years. Oh my God, I'm going to be 45 soon. Like, this has been over half my life. and it's just been sitting in that place, in this place right now, recognizing more and more of how much of what I've invested in is just another attempt to control things or feel better or define myself or find value in what I'm doing or conceptualize the journey, rather than to actually experience and live and enjoy and be informed by that journey. And that's it. That's all I'm ever trying to communicate. And I'm not even communicating it to anybody else. That's the point. It's self-communication. When you hang out with me, you recognize I am not living for you. Which is why it can be uncomfortable to hang out with me, because sometimes, especially if you're looking for some validation, like if you want to feel like I like you as a person, you're going to have a hard time hanging out with me. And it's just because I don't go out of my way to make sure I like you as a person. If you asked me, I'd tell you, but if you'd ask me, that'd be really awkward, wouldn't it? Right. And so you gotta live with that uncertainty. And that's the point. If you can, we're gonna get along just fine. We're gonna get along just fine. But that is the road that I've been on. That's the path I've been on. And I'm not about to try and change it just because somebody thinks that I should be there for them in a different way. Because I know exactly where that mentality comes from. I was the same way. I'm like, why aren't you here for me? Why aren't you living up to my expectations? Why can't you fix this? If only you could answer my questions. If only you could show me the path. If only I could get some clarity from you. And you're just not willing to take that step to make it about you. But as soon as you do, you'll find me there. Because you're not trying to get anywhere. And I've been here the whole fucking time. Which is why I like Dualistic Unity. I love Dualistic Unity because Dualistic Unity to me is, and this is becoming rapidly more the case, especially as you and Amanda and Jackie start getting more of, of what I'm saying here. Dualistic Unity is nothing but potential. It's potential and its presence without any direct plan, without any actual specific, this has got to happen. It's nothing but potential, which means that it can grow in any direction, very much like a plant breaking its way through concrete. And that's very much what this mentality is doing. The conversation we're having right now is outside of the social norm. Like the conversation we're having about responsibility, about not running from your feelings, not trying to feel better, not trying to follow someone else, not trying to invest in some sense of control. You don't find that conversation anywhere because there's no benefit to it. There's no profit to be made at all. And yet here we fucking are growing. We've been here for 2.5+ years, right? Our audience is sizable. Our community grows all the time. Our Discord is awesome. Our Patreon groups are fucking incredible. Not only that, but we see evidence of this growing conversation all the time in little bits here and there. You can hear it a little bit here and there, how the conversation is starting to shift a little bit. It's still holding on to that identity. It's still holding on to control, but it's starting to recognize more and more that it's not everything it wants to invest in. So there's an exciting part of being here doing this, because I never thought this conversation would take root in our current mentality. It was enough that it took root in me. It was enough that I was having that conversation with myself, and it still is. And that should be the same for you. If you want to experience that freedom to just be you, then you have to make it about the experience of you, not the experience of what somebody else thinks you should be, and not the experience of what you think you should be through what somebody else is doing. It's all just assumption. You got to find your own way. But that said, we got about 10 minutes left. I want to mention we have a new investor presentation that we did. It's shorter, it's condensed, it looks fucking dope. If you'd like to take a look at it, please do so. You can go to dualisticunity.com/invest. Whether you want to invest or not doesn't really matter, but we'd love to hear your feedback. So if you like the presentation, let us know. Send us a message, leave a comment on Instagram, message us on Discord. You can just leave your comment in the general thread on Discord and we'll read it. But we'd really appreciate your feedback, as we are now going to try and do something with Dualistic Unity that we haven't done before, because all of this has been without trying to get anywhere. And that's the point. Like, that's been the most important thing to me throughout this entire conversation, especially, with Andrew and everybody we've ever spoken to. And it's funny because, Andrew, you've actually said this to me, like, oh man, I really appreciate, how you've stuck it out with me. I've had nowhere to go. Like, I'm not trying to get there. To me, there's just like, yeah, this is the path we're on. Here we go. Right. And that's it. It's like, I'm just walking it. Here. And every time I'm like, but I want to know where it's going. I'm like, I know why though. I know why, because I'm afraid. And that's it. I can be afraid and not give into it. As long as I recognize what I'm doing out of fear, then I don't need to give into those things. And here we are, 2.5 years later, with Dualistic Unity growing by leaps and bounds, and our final mini retreat of 2024 coming up at the end of May. And this is going to be a fun one for me, because the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I know we're now selling tickets to this mini retreat. It's in Colorado. It's an extremely 420 friendly event. This is going to be an event where it's not a huge house, to be honest with you. It's a dope place. There's a pool table, movie theater, hot tub, games room, all that other stuff. But if you're coming to this one, get ready to hang with me. The last Colorado retreat, everybody who came, it was funny because those who came were ready to deal with some shit. And there was a spectrum at that retreat, from dealing with some deep, dark shit to dealing with here and now. And this event is going to be very similar. I'm very excited for this event. It's our last mini retreat of 2024. The significance of that does not escape me. The timing of everything is very important, whether we realize it or not. I don't have to have control to recognize that things have their own timing. All right. So whatever this event ends up being, I'm fucking excited for it, because I've had a lot of time to reflect, especially in this last retreat and everything that's happened since. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm doing now. It's not what I thought it was. Still not what I think it is. But it's just about showing up. So if you're able to, and you're willing to, let go of needing to be fixed, just come hang out for a weekend. Come play pool. Come sit in the moment. Come be uncomfortable. And we can talk about that experience in reality without trying to feel better. We can talk about it, its significance, its importance, and how valuable that discomfort is. And in that, we'll have a fucking good laugh, and we'll smoke a lot of weed.
And then laugh some more, and then smoke some more weed. And I'm like, oh, hope I didn't say that loud enough for TikTok to hear. But yeah, that shift, even right there in the conversation, being like, right here, what's going on, what's actually happening, instead of this, like, high-minded shit, man. Like, that's where it's like another component of experience. But yeah, like the experience of like genuinely being here, like not holding on. And even as you, I don't know, like let go of certain things. And I don't even know how necessarily do that. I guess it's just like a focus, but it does, shift in your reality as well. It's like you start to recognize, and it comes with self-honesty. And I think, something like a little bit of cannabis can certainly help that. But you start to realize how much, oh, there goes the age restriction, how much is there. And I kind of immediately forgot where I was going with that, but being willing to feel discomforts, and like right here, yeah, right here and right now, like completely forgetting where I was going with something and being like, that's something I'm feeling right now, and that's cool, and it's something that's happening right now, and so it's interesting because then it's like you can dig into this thought that you're doing something wrong too, but if it's not, if it's like, "Well, I don't know how it's gonna be taken," because then it's like, well, someone could actually, and again, it's not for anyone else. And that's interesting because if it's for someone else, like, oh, well, then, stumbling might be better for someone else. It's like, no, not that either. It's like, it's just, if it's just your own experience, then it's like, oh, it's almost like there doesn't have to be the lasting impact of like, "Oh, I forgot what I was saying," like, uh, and that's my own experience right now. If I'm not talking for anyone or trying to get anything across to anyone, then that's on the table too, and if I'm cool with it, it's like the thought that anyone is expecting something, to be shared or said or like, "Oh, I was really hoping that Andrew would complete that thought because what?" Like, and what am I expecting of myself? Like, oh, it could have been, oh, if people don't yeah, again, you made a joke about that on one of our walks, when we were in Nanaimo, when you went on a spiel, and then I was trying to hold on to this thought, and then I totally forgot, and I was like, I totally forgot what I was gonna share or say, and I kept trying to like go back to it, and you made some sort of joke like, "Oh no, like hope the world will be okay without that, super impactful insight you were about to share." And I laughed at it, but it didn't immediately like sink in necessarily. But that how freeing is that? That like anything you share or say, you have no idea how it's going to be impacted, and the thought that it's like it should be done versus it shouldn't, should be shared versus it shouldn't, have some expectation is like just fucks you up. And there's a lot of ways that not that we make ourselves better, because not doing it doesn't make you better, but at least you're not fucking yourself up. Like at least you're not like putting these blocks in front of just like walking through reality, like just doing things. It's like there's a lot of blocks and like identity. Yeah, that perception of myself is one of the biggest ones. Whatever thing that I'm focused on is gonna, it's like I almost can't see past it until like, yeah, but I don't need to have that their expectation either, or like that's cool too.
And that's the nitty gritty of all of this. And you kind of pinned it there. When it's not about other people, then I just have to let go of my own expectations of myself. Right. But isn't that funny? Because when it's not about other people and you let go of your expectations of yourself, any other person who has expectations of you all of a sudden has a different lesson, because you're not living up to their expectations either, because you're not living up to your own, because you and them are the same self. This is the crux of this whole fucking unity awareness thing. Be yourself. Be yourself. That is exactly what this is. There's no division whatsoever. You want to help us? Let us go. Be yourself, because we're all you. The best thing you can do to take care of us is to understand yourself and stop making yourself suffer needlessly. The rest comes together on its own. But it's not about having some divine conversation. It's about being authentically here and now as you are. Because then we're all here with you, whether we realize it or not. This has been a dope episode. Again, join us in Colorado if you can. Check out the investor pitch if you can. We're going to be on Patreon in about 15 minutes for a tier 2 call. Hour and a half, always a lot of fun. If you can join us, please do. Patreon.com/dualistic unity. It is good to be back. I am looking forward to our Sunday episode of Raw. Thinking we might be doing a marathon episode in the very near future. We're going to talk about when in the Patreon call after this. We'll talk to you soon, everyone. We love you.